Guys and girls, welcome back to the channel in our Ask the Expert series. Last week we had a legal expert. The week before that we had a mortgage expert. This week we have got our very own Georgie Kemp, aka GK, the lean mean selling expert. Welcome, George.
Hello, thank you for that.
Thank you for coming on. I've only been trying for the last few months and I'm amazingly happy to have you here.
Let's see, would it be the first and the last though?
No. So quick background, right, on Georgie. Georgie is incredible. We've just discovered that she's been with Power Bespoke in all of her 20s so far. So she's gone from teenager to adult with Power Bespoke. That's quite mad, isn't it? 19, 20.
Yeah, you've seen the best and worst of me then.
Yeah, the worm, the candle, the hair, the Christmas party.
Moving on.
And February 2019, we've discovered that you joined us, and it's been almost 5 years, been an amazing 5 years. But in that time, I think the really important thing I wanted to frame this is that, Georgie, you started as an agent assistant, right?
Yeah.
Supporting the agents, watching what they do, learning how to be an agent. Then you become our operations manager, and that was just before COVID hit. So you were running all the back end and the wheels that turn behind the scenes in Power Bespoke. And then you bumped your head one day and said, I really want to be an agent. And I said, I think you really should be as well, because you'd be an amazing one. And here we are, 18 months later, maybe?
Yeah.
Roughly. Absolutely killing it. We're going to talk about a situation which recently took place, one of your many property sales over the last few months, but one stands out big time, which is one you agreed after 20 inquiries, 12 viewings, 6 days, 5 offers, over market and price. So I thought we'd get you on, break it down. Let's find out what you've done to achieve that for the client, who is absolutely over the moon, by the way, and just break it down. So for anyone thinking of selling, anyone thinking of buying, they can take some huge value from this to help them move forward.
Well, I think the crucial part of it is that it was in today's market. So, well, it was October, right? So the market's dramatically changed. That is the results we were seeing a year ago. You know, that was almost the norm. So it's almost like the market's changed, but by amending our strategy accordingly, we're still achieving the same results, which is multiple viewings, multiple offers in excess of the marketing price.
Love that. And that kind of just, it helps educate people that headlines generally are just there to get clicks and eyeballs and sell things, right? But generally, under the surface, when I say to someone, yeah, Georgie just agreed to sell in 6 days, 5 offers, 20 inquiries, 12 viewings, multiple over asking price offers, they're like, yeah, have you read the news? And it's so not the case. Like, as long as you adapt, and we're really good at that, we're very nimble, very innovative, and we adapt. And I always say to people, we'll come on to the 11-step plan in a minute, but the plan never changes. The property in the plan is what changes. And in different market conditions, it's just the price that you're likely to achieve as a result of the plan will sometimes change. Mm-hmm. So let me break it down a little bit, right? So how do you think of that particular property, which had a really good market launch? What's your advice to clients around a market launch? And I think we take that for granted a bit at the minute. Is it like market launch we talk about? Most they talk about sticking it on Rightmove. Like, what's the build up around that and when to do it and that kind of thing?
Well, first of all, there's always the two price that we always discuss of what they want to achieve and the marketing price. So that being two completely different things. We need to price to entice to get that kind of interest. Otherwise, you're going to sit above the market, and what a lot of properties are unfortunately doing is stagnating and then chasing the market down. So it's like what you always say is price for tomorrow. So I think it's step one, ironically, of the 11-step plan is getting the price right and being confident that that's still going to enable the client to achieve the target or as high a price in the current market that we're in. So it was agreeing that.
And just on that point is like, what was the marketing price? What did you decide on a marketing price for that property?
325. Offers in excess of.
So the offers in excess of, whereas I guess some people might have gone 350 asking, 375 asking actually.
Well, I know that the other agent, because naturally they got 3 agents over, and the other agent had said guide price 350. Now I said, look, we could do that, but we're saying that's probably top end target. It was a bit too toppy. Why would we trial it at that price, which we think we're not necessarily going to achieve anyway? Let's undercut that, almost undercut ourselves by offers in excess of with a guide. So I was still protecting them, saying 325 to the 350, because in essence, then we're looking to achieve between the two, which they would have still been getting, if not less, well, significantly less, because they wouldn't have had the demand if they'd gone on at the 350.
Yeah, and there's a crucial part is the property will find its value in the market. You can't underprice a house. You can only overprice it and kill the interest. I can't bang around that too much. Like offers over 325. We haven't disclosed the address, obviously, because it's still going through. But how high did the offers come in at over that? What was the highest one?
What was the highest one? Off the top of my head, you've got me now, because the highest one, and again, we're going to come on to that, isn't actually the one that went ahead, but it was just shy of, actually at the upper end of the 350. It was just below.
Our job as agents isn't to get a buyer, it's to get the seller options of buyers depending on what their next step is and their ultimate goal, to best enable them to achieve that next step or ultimate goal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, so I'm quickly looking at multi-screening. The highest offer came in very, very close to that top end guide, which was almost 25 grand higher than the offers over figure, right?
Yeah.
And so that went on the market, loads of interest, let the demand do its thing when you put a house to market fully. 20 inquiries, like across 6 days. How do you handle those successfully?
So again, this is about kind of amending the 11-step plan, is actually, and the reason there was less viewings that went ahead is normally we'd hold back viewings, but because within the first 24 hours I saw a lot of those inquiries, I straight away said to the sellers, could we do this Saturday? There's no need for us to hold back because we're already getting the demand.
Yeah.
So that's first of all. So we brought our timeframes before, but also contacting all the buyers and getting them all blocked together to be able to maximize and use the competition. So doing a launch day on that Saturday, I was there for quite a long time, but blocking them all together meant that everybody had their own viewing, which is really, really important, but also knew that the next person is also really, really interested.
Yeah, and there's two things that are really important there. One is you have to have a plan for everything, right? So we've got the 11-step plan. I'll put a link in the description. People can download it. That's the exact plan that I would implement in the property sale. You implement in the property sale. But it's really important to recognize and know when you've got to pivot away from that plan. For example, we do the advised thing as a 10-day holdback, launch on a Wednesday, viewings Saturday a week, build up a bit of interest. But you were like, guys, we need to get these through the door now. These are keen buyers. They want to view now. Let's pivot away from that plan and just get the buyers through. Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just that proactive approach, really, isn't it?
And the other important thing to bear in mind is I think everybody actually in the company aren't the biggest fans of like open houses.
Yeah.
That said, we are big fans for two main reasons of launch days, back-to-back viewings, is because one, people should, if they're spending hundreds of thousands of pounds, they should be afforded the courtesy of being able to look around the house privately on their own and have a good look around it. But secondly, when you get 20 inquiries and 12 viewings, the sellers generally want those to be done ideally in a block so that they can live in their house and just have a day of viewings. Is that kind of how it went down? Yeah,
exactly. It's literally benefiting everyone. Having them blocked together means that the seller just needed to go out for that one Saturday. But also it was easier for me to be there and available to show every single person their own kind of viewing. But also it benefited the viewers, in essence, and getting that best price was because there was that gentle competition, which we're not seeing in today's market because, as we know, activity is down. So the strategy has literally created that demand, that interest, and that kind of excitement around the property, which is the reason it went for in excess of, rather than if we'd gone at 350 and then you're getting offers come in, lower than that price.
Yeah, I would guarantee if you had gone up guide price 350, you would have got half the amount of viewings, probably.
Even less than that, almost, yeah.
Even less. So that means half the amount of offers to choose from. That means it's that whole price to entice, price for tomorrow's market, offers in excess of price, offers over is really quite important. So you've done all that. You launched it. You've done viewings. You got 5 offers come in.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the importance at the minute. You've got 5 offers and it's easy for, oh my God, over asking price offer. Let me put it to the seller. Let's get them to accept it. But that's not reality when you've got offer qualification involved. So how important is offer qualification, and how do you do that to make sure that the buyers are qualified correctly? And let's caveat here that some buyers probably aren't even aware that they aren't as good a buyers as they thought they were in the first place.
Well, that comes back to what I said before about, oh, actually, I don't know the highest offer because we didn't go with that one. And that's exactly that main reason is it's all well and good getting the offer, but actually, are they the best buyer? So in that instance, they couldn't afford it. They could, obviously, but when we financially qualified them, the money wasn't actually immediately accessible. And it was such a delay, actually, when we looked at the risks, because you've got to consider, yeah, okay, the money might come through, but actually we've delayed it. And actually, will that buyer still be there? You know, it's an added risk. So when we reviewed all the offers, actually, yes, that's high, but it actually brought it down. So what I'm talking about when we're financially qualifying, as we said, is actually making sure that they have spoken to a mortgage advisor, got that mortgage in principle. Better yet, they've spoken to my recommended mortgage advisor, Will, who we had on at the beginning, because he can say, yes, they're good, they've got X, Y, Z, and making sure they've got all that documentation. But what I find even more important, yeah, okay, right, perfect, they can tick, they can afford the house, but how they've responded to it. Some buyers, I'll be chasing them. And yeah, okay, they still might be the best buyer, but I think it's really important for me to say to the seller, this is what type of buyer we're getting into. But also for me to know, because my job is now to progress it all the way to getting the keys. I need to know that that buyer is going to need me, on the phone to them quite regularly, making sure that they are doing what they need to do.
Massive point there. So I think that's huge. And I don't think enough sellers ask their agent these questions when considering offers. So let's say you said, if you don't add the bits around it is important. Like, John, we have got an X amount offer, which is way above asking price, but it took him 3 days to get it to me. I still haven't received his proof of deposit. He's not very communicative. The writing's on the wall, how this is going to go most likely if we accept his offer. Mm-hmm. And like a massive shout out to buyers. Like, if you are a serious buyer, be a serious buyer. If you're a flaky buyer, just go out offering on stuff willy-nilly and don't follow through with nothing, and the agent will soon realise that you're a flaky buyer and you're never going to have an offer accepted with them.
Well, exactly that. So with the 5 offers, it was to literally present it. I mean, we've got a form where I can do a full report of what the buyer's position is, their kind of time frames of what their ideal time frames look like, but how big their deposit is. Again, the risk factor of mortgages and all the rest of it. But also adding in those notes, yes, I financially qualified them, I'm happy with them, but also how they were to deal with it. And then you can actually, you can't make a decision on anything unless you've got all the facts. So unless you give the seller all of that, I don't think they can make the decision. Because in this case, yes, the highest offer was the highest by a fair amount. It still wasn't the best offer. And I think that's the most important thing. If we hadn't have sat down and reviewed all of that, we'd have gone with that offer. But our target completion date we're looking at early next year wouldn't have been happening because that buyer wouldn't have even had the money then.
Yeah, massive. So great communication from your agent. Great hearing what's not said, I think, is a good point. And any agents watching this, if you aren't getting a good vibe from the buyer, it's your job to tell the seller that, because you're acting for the seller. And it's...
But I agree. And again, as I said, it's not saying let's not use this buyer. They might be a good buyer, but you just know that they're a different type of person. So we're going to manage them differently.
Yeah. And if they're just being pure, straight up tricky, like I've had that a lot, I'm not going to send you my proof of deposit and mortgage agreement principal until I know my offer's accepted. Well, we can't accept the offer until we know that you've got the mortgage and you've got the deposit. So catch-22, just give me what I'm asking for and I'll do my best and try and help you.
Yeah.
Rewind a bit. So how did you get speaking to that client originally?
The client?
Yeah.
Recommended.
So I wanted to bring that up because straight away, because you're so awesome and you're getting recommended loads by people, you're out of those 3 agents they're seeing, your advice, it might be counterintuitive. Oh, but they're saying 350. Yeah, but Georgia knows what she's talking about because she was recommended to us by this friend that she sold his house or her house too.
Yeah.
So if you, I guess a tip or lesson, firstly, just call Georgie. But if you're not going to do that, at least ask your friends for recommendations of good agents that they've dealt with, spoken to, had personal experience with.
And this is where it comes up, because in the living room, we know anybody can say anything. It is really so important about asking the right questions, getting to know that agent and what they're going to deliver. And the best thing is looking at what they've done previously. So what they actually achieve, rather than them just saying, this is how much your house is worth.
Yeah, nice. So you recommended in a good sit down. I mean, one thing that I have to have a massive virtual high five to you for is your level of research before going out to clients is like you're on day one, but you're not. You're actually very knowledgeable and experienced now, but you still prepare like it's your first ever appraisal. And that is underestimated. I don't think enough sellers say to agents, can you show me the preparation that you've gone through? Like how you've arrived at that figure? Most just rock up. I'm not talking about myself here, I promise. Most just rock up with an iPad, kind of because they've been doing it 20 years, they know. But actually, you don't until you look at the data and say, well, look, you're going to position in here and we need to compete with that one. Yours is nicer, I get it. But if we're not at that price, you're not going to get any interest. And let's get them in the door. Then we can show them and explain to them why yours is better and 25 grand more. And then we'll use the one that is overpriced to justify the buyer paying that price for your house.
Boom. Well, I mean, from an agent's perspective, I bet you've never come out of an advice meeting going, I wish I hadn't have prepared so much. Admittedly, sometimes I've prepared and I've not used it, but I've never gone, why did I do that? Because that's lost me the business. Being over-prepared is better because you never know where the conversation's going, and being able to support it, because you also don't know what type of a client it is. Because as we said before, is some clients love to see the figures. Some clients like to see the reviews, the words. Different people like different things. So again, being over-prepared means that actually you can divert the conversation because you're able to, because I've got the tools, because I've done the research already.
And give them an extremely bespoke experience.
Yeah.
See what I've done there, George? Love that. So recommendation in, sat them really good advice that a lot of the time you can sometimes be too honest to clients as what they should do and lose the business. In this time you didn't, and you got them an even better outcome than I'm sure they would have got if they'd gone on at the higher valuation. Mm-hmm. You launched it, you done your viewing day, which I remember you were there, like you done a serious launch day on that day. I guess you were thinking, let's just do one proper day.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And let's tie this up Monday. Offer acceptance, qualification, good communication between mortgage broker and you. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, so then you chose a buyer, wasn't the highest offer, but it was the best offer.
Still a very good, strong offer, in excess of the rest.
Yeah, still in excess, but it wasn't as high as the highest offer, but it was the one that you and the client felt was going to help them achieve their ultimate outcome as to why they're selling the house in the timescales they wanted. Where does solicitors come into this?
Now.
Fine. So now you've got to get the solicitor's details off of the buyer and the seller and do memorandums and that kind of stuff. What would your advice be to when it comes to choosing your team, like your power team? Sorry, that was another pun. But the team around your property move, mortgage advisor, solicitor.
So solicitors, some people might have already, but especially with a buyer at this point, a lot of them haven't got a solicitor in this case because they were first-time buyers anyway, so they didn't have that kind of relationship. But it kind of is a bit like choosing an agent. I know that you've previously said choosing an agent is like employing someone, where it's the same with the solicitor and the mortgage advisor. So it should be exactly the same process. So for solicitors, interview 3, like you would with an agent. Really get to know them, but also, again, recommendations. So we always like to recommend. It's not a case of, oh, my solicitor, use them because you have to, all the rest. It's a case of, here's my highly recommended solicitor. And sometimes I'll recommend them a couple as well, because it's not a case of you have to use these. Actually, I've worked really well in these ones. They're, close to you, don't necessarily need to be close to you, but I know that they are the best, and they will get you to the end result as a team because we're going to all work together.
Yeah, massive that. Again, like and there's no, this is the important thing, is there's no obligation. It's just like, if you want this to go as smoothly as possible, I suggest you use one of these mortgage advisors or one of these solicitors, because we collaborate well together. You and I have a property for sale going through at the minute, which is like, the seller decided not to use our recommended, totally fine, but they won't update us on anything. They're an absolute nightmare to get hold of. They won't respond to our emails, and the client's chasing us, and we're like, I don't know, because your solicitor ain't communicating with me. Chase your solicitor. I would love to do my job better, to get updates from them, give you updates from that solicitor, that mortgage advisor in one update. But you've stopped me being able to do that by going with that cheap person based up in Northumberland somewhere. So
a lot of those I'm finding, though, is because you don't necessarily have the solicitor dealing with the case the whole way through. So again, that's finding out who the case handler is, and actually, are they a qualified solicitor? Because often you've got the assistant working on the case, you think it's all great, and then last minute, which is a lot harder to, digest, is when something, gets flagged up that should have been flagged up ages ago, but it's because actually the solicitor's only just seen the case. And I've had that on a few of them as well. And as I said, is if it got flagged up earlier, we could have dealt with it. But often these things are getting reviewed, just before exchange, when people are thinking about moving. And often the things that get flagged up are pretty time consuming as well.
Yes, the likelihood is the agent is going to be earning some kind of referral fee, potentially, from this company or these companies, which is totally fine for you to ask them, great, thanks for that, but how much are you earning from them? Because that should be public knowledge. A lot, I think ours generally is 50 quid here, 50 quid there. It comes out of this solicitor's and mortgage advisor's marketing pot, not necessarily coming out of the client's pocket. But there's also some crap ones that they're only recommending them because they're getting 400 quid from them. And that's ridiculous. I don't believe anybody should be earning 400 quid referral fees when it's the client ultimately paying for it, that level of referral fee. So just, if they're open and transparent on this, say, look, I do earn a little bit of a referral fee from this, but that is not why I recommend them. I've currently got 6 clients with them, and we can have one call once a week, full update on all the cases that I've got going through for clients. Happy days. In terms of, so there's another video on that as well. Last week, I've done a video with Victoria Hazel from HCB Group. Incredible. A link of that in the description as well. She went into some real good tips on how to choose the right solicitor, conveyancer, lawyer for your property transaction. I think that's an incredible recap, pricing it right, launching it, viewings, hold back, pivoting where we need to, offers, selection, qualification, solicitors for progression. What would be your, the market the way it is, there are many buyers out there. Yes, prices have changed, no getting around that, but there are still many buyers out there. Not as many as there would have been 18 months ago, but there's still generally more than one for each correctly priced property. Your example says, 5 offers, 1 house. That's pretty good going still. But what would be your kind of number one piece of advice that tops it all for someone thinking of selling right now? Or needing to sell right now? Yeah.
Ask yourself what and why. So what's the ultimate goal? Because that will then dictate what the best move is for you going forward.
Yeah, nice. So, the what and why. What's the ultimate goal? I want to move house. We're really outgrowing this one. I want a bigger one. That then drives those decisions of, well, look, there's not a lot on the market at the minute, bigger. Probably going to stay that way. So it's a good time to move. Yeah. And I think pricing as well.
And that's what I was going to say, is if, let's say, okay, we've decided that going on the market is the best thing for them. Fantastic. It's all about the marketing, it's marketing to the majority. So the marketing has got to be 10 out of 10. So you're standing out from competition. And with prices how they are, that's another way to stand out from competition. Because at the end of the day, the price is literally to get the buyer through the door. So it is a marketing strategy. So all in all, it all does come down to marketing, and that's where we need to focus all of our energy as agents. And you need to have your confidence that your agent is doing everything in the marketing stage, because that's the bit that's suffering. Supply in a lot of cases is slightly higher, some cases a lot higher than the demand. So we need to be the best compared to all the rest of the competition.
I was on a podcast the other day and someone asked me, what's the priorities of that someone should have when choosing an estate agent? And I said, well, it's changed a lot in the last 30 years. Like back 30 years ago, it would have been local presence, local knowledge, then probably negotiation ability, and then marketing knowledge. And it's really gone full circle. The marketing, the way your house is marketed, presented, and as you rightly said, really good point, your pricing is just part of your marketing strategy, has no relevance at all to what your house is actually worth. It's just there to get people through the door.
Which people do get so fixated on, which I do understand, because, you know, it's your home, you want it to be worth X. But when I'm talking marketing price, I'm not saying what it's worth anything. It's literally the marketing strategy. The same way I choose the front picture, you know, to lead us in. It's the price to lead the buyer to the house.
Yeah. And that's in a more competitive market, you know, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
George, that was amazing. We're 27 minutes. That's bang on time. Great advice. If anybody needs any advice, where can they hit you up? How can they contact you?
Here. I'm sure you can put all the contact details below. But yeah, because we can do my email and number.
To email, do the Instas. We can put all the links in there.
Anywhere.
Send a messenger pigeon to find Georgie. One way or another, get hold of her. She'll help you, give you some good advice, and get you moved on. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you very much.